Well, hello and welcome to This Month in Hamilton, our June 2023 edition. Want to start out by thanking WBCB 1490 AM for allowing us each and every month to bring you This Month in Hamilton, as well as thanking our sponsors, Angelo Onifrey in the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office, Capital Health System, Haldeman Ford Subaru, Radiology Affiliates Imaging, and Saul Funeral Homes. We'll be joined later by our guest for This Month in Hamilton, our new police chief, Ken DeBoskey. He's been police chief now just over 3 weeks. We're very excited to have him here in Hamilton and have him take over from Chief James Stevens, who by state law was forced to retire last month in May of 2023. And so we'll be talking a little bit with Chief DeBoskey about who he is and what he sees as the next steps in our police division's future. It's a division almost 100 years old now. 1927 it was officially formed, so we're coming up on just under 100 years now, and he'll be leading that police division into the start of its next 100 years. So a lot of exciting things going on with our police division. We'll talk to Chief DeBoskey about that. In terms of what's going on this month in Hamilton, first, a little bit of a rewind. I want to thank all those who came out for two very patriotic events in May of 2023. First, we had our Armed Forces Day, May 20th. For those who did come out, it was a pouring rain event, and we still had well over 100 people come out to honor those, to honor those who have served or are serving our United States Armed Forces. As an Air Force vet myself, it's also a time to reflect on the camaraderie between all the branches of the Armed Forces. While we each prefer and like our branch of the Armed Forces the most, we all recognize that it's the unity of all those branches that make us the most powerful country in the world, the most powerful military in the world. And it really is a kindred relationship between all the branches, as much as we enjoy poking fun of each other the other 364 days of the year. Shortly after that, at the end of May, we had our Memorial Day, again, to pause and remember all those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And it was a great event. Two great parades that we have the tradition for in Hamilton. One, the Groveville-Yardville Parade. It's 151st year that they just celebrated. And then the Nottingham Parade, again, congratulations and thanks to those who organize and put on those parades, especially the Nottingham Parade put on by the FMBA, the Firemen's Union, who's taken it over through consolidation and running that parade, but they still do so very closely with the Nottingham Volunteer Company. And then obviously the Groveville-Yardville is a 100% volunteer organization as well. So really want to thank those organizations for continuing those traditions here in town. Saw many of you out at one, some of you at both parades. And so, again, just really appreciate the community turnout to pause and remember and celebrate those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. We have coming up another very patriotic event, July 4th, just less than or about a week away from when we're taping this. And this Friday, June 30th, right now, there's no rain in the forecast, so it'll go off on Friday, June 30th, our Independence Day and fireworks celebration. Many of you have asked why June 30th. We're not even in July, and we're 4 or 5 days ahead of July 4th. So first, we expect many people to go away on July 3rd, and so we wanted to get this in before a lot of people are on vacation or down the shore, what have you. Also gives our employees the opportunity to take a little vacation and get a long weekend as well. And so for those reasons, we picked June 30th. We know there's going to be many other fireworks going on in and around Hamilton, whether at Mercer County Park or other communities as well, ones that always have them on the 4th or always have them on the 3rd. So we wanted to give people who enjoy the fireworks an opportunity to get as many fireworks shows in as they can. Personally, I love fireworks as well, so I enjoy getting to go out and see as many as possible. And so it's just a really great thing for the community. Again, we're hopeful that for those who were going to take a long weekend, they're able to come out on Friday, June 30th, get our show in, and then have a nice long weekend, especially if they're taking off Monday the 3rd. So good things there. In terms of what else is going on around the town, you're still going to see a lot of road construction projects going on, a lot of whether it's us as a township, Aqua is doing a lot of repaving, PSC&G is doing some repaving. So a lot of just construction, road projects going on in town. Still a lot of even private events. This past week we had the St. Greg's Carnival, and while some of the nights got a little rainy, it was a fantastic carnival. I want to thank all those again who put that event on. Just a tremendous time. Even my daughter this morning on the way to school said, "Daddy, I want to go to the carnival again." And so I think it just shows you what a great time everybody has at that carnival, what a great time, what a great job St. Greg's does as part of that carnival, really bringing family fun here into town. Got to see a lot of people there really enjoying themselves, some with kids, some without kids, but everybody just out enjoying the community. It felt like the boardwalk was brought to Hamilton. So kudos to the St. Greg's community for putting on that event. And we're hopeful, again, that tradition keeps going for many, many more years, and no doubt that it will. In terms of what else is going on in town, I want to put a pitch in for our animal shelter. You've probably heard that many shelters around the country are at or near capacity in terms of animals. This is in sharp contrast to early on in the pandemic, 2020, 2021, when the shelters were near empty. People were staying home, people wanted companionship and animals, and now we've seen the reverse, right? People who maybe adopted animals, who somehow those animals are getting loose or being turned over to the shelter or just not adopted. So our shelter here in Hamilton is near capacity as well, and we do our best to make sure all those animals are taken care of as well as they can be, and put in the best situation possible to be adopted. So if you have any birthdays or celebrations coming up this year, I ask you to think about adopting a pet from our shelter. Great present to bring home to the family, to bring home to little ones, but also just getting yourself a companion for a long time. Cat, dog, I think we even had a dragon, a bunny rabbit, all sorts of things over at the shelter. So really want to put in a pitch for them and remind you that we have one here in Hamilton, that they're doing a great job, but really we need people to go out and adopt to help get our census down at the shelter as well. Again, it's not just a Hamilton thing, it's a state and national issue, but we're going to certainly promote our shelter here in Hamilton. In terms of some other good announcements to make, I know many of you were concerned about a proposed warehouse on Cooser Road across from our Hamilton Recreation Office next to the Hibernians and one of our 55 and up communities. We're very pleased to have announced last week that we've entered negotiations with the involved parties to try to purchase that property for open space preservation. That would have been a 60,000+ square foot warehouse that we hope now to be able to not have that and to be able to preserve it as open space. Again, it's directly across the street from the Bergalley tract. It's right next to residential areas, right on a very narrow road that would not have been very conducive to more truck traffic. So we're very hopeful for that. We're very thankful to those who came out, who spoke out against the project in terms of its hearings at the planning board. If you remember, last year it was voted down. The applicant brought a slightly revised project again this year, but we're very hopeful to be able to preserve that space now, preserve it for open space, and really keep the character of Cooser Road in that area. And we have a lot of good things going on with open space. Obviously, we purchased the sawmill facility from the YMCA to preserve as open space. We just purchased another 30 acres in Cornell Heights to preserve as open space. And then at the council meeting last week, our council authorized the township to foreclose on some tax liens on many properties that would total, again, over 30 acres that we would be able to preserve as open space. So again, in a variety of different ways, we're continuing our commitment to make sure that open space is preserved, but especially open space in areas that really needs to be preserved. Ones that the Cornell Heights property abutted the Assunpink Boulevard, or the Assunpink Creek. We have right across from the Hamilton Recreation Office. Again, there's some wetlands in there. We know it gets very wet back there, so that would help us. And some of the properties that we're looking to foreclose on. One borders Crosswicks Creek down in the Groveville, Yardville area. Another has Myrie Run that it abuts as well off of Hughes Drive. So just a lot of good strategic planning we're trying to do to preserve a lot of these properties, preserve them next to streams and stream buffers, all that kind of stuff. We know flooding obviously can be a concern, especially as we enter the storm season in the summer. So again, we're trying to be proactive in a lot of those steps to preserve a lot of this property. So with that, a lot of good things going on. We're going to take our short break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Chief DeBoskey. Again, he got sworn in June 1st at a very great ceremony. Really excited to hear from him, to introduce him to you all who are listening or watching this show, and then hear what his vision is for the future of our Hamilton Township Police Division. So we'll be back just after a short break.
Capital Health's primary care network continues to grow, bringing its extensive option of locations to your neighborhood. Whether you're scheduling a wellness checkup or not feeling well, advanced medicine starts with a Capital Health primary care doctor at locations near you in Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties. To find a Capital Health primary care location that's convenient for you, visit capitalmedicalgroup.org. That's capitalmedicalgroup.org. Today's show is being brought to you by Angelo Onifrey in the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office as a public service to the community. Angelo Onifrey urges you to stay involved in your community and to also support the youth of our community. They are tomorrow's future leaders in Mercer County. This message brought to you by the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office, who hope you enjoyed today's show.
Radiology Affiliates Imaging has been part of the Hamilton community for over 50 years, with two convenient locations, RAI Chi Hamilton and RAI Lawrenceville. We offer expertise in all areas of imaging for all members of your family. Our board-certified specialty radiologists offer expertise in women's imaging, interventional radiology, musculoskeletal and diagnostic radiology. Whether you need an MRI, CAT scan, ultrasound, mammogram, or X-ray, we offer the latest in imaging technology and interpretation. In the last 50 years, RAI has earned our place amongst the largest and most respected radiology groups in our area. For more information on all RAI has to offer, visit www.4rai.com.
Well, welcome back to This Month in Hamilton. Again, I want to thank our sponsors, Angelo Onifrey in the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office, Capital Health System, Haldeman Ford Subaru, Radiology Affiliates Imaging, and Saul Funeral Homes. So joining us today at This Month in Hamilton, we have our new police chief, Ken DeBoskey. Chief, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
So congratulations. I know it hasn't even been a full month yet as police chief, but certainly a great ceremony we had back on June 1st, swearing you in, surrounded by your family and loved ones and colleagues and all sorts of stuff. So hopefully you're still in the honeymoon period of less than a month, but want to again say congratulations to you.
And thank you again, sir.
So, if you can, just take us a little bit on your journey in law enforcement, right? How long you've been a law enforcement officer? What kind of led you to get into law enforcement?
Sure. First off, I've been almost a lifetime Hamilton Township resident, apart from about a 11 or 12 year interlude in my first marriage, where I lived in Allentown, right next door. I am born and raised. I attended St. Raphael's Grammar School. I attended McCorston High School, which is now Trenton Christian Academy. So I spent my entirety of my 56 years in the Hamilton area. I played in Sunnybray Little League. I played in Babe Ruth baseball. I've really my roots are extremely deep here in Hamilton.
What position in baseball?
I played a little bit of everything. I
Okay.
pitched a little bit. I was first base, a lot of third base. I played third base for several years.
All right.
Unfortunately, never led to anything. I had a great glove and a great arm, but couldn't hit worth a lick. So never quite took me to the heights I was hoping for. But anyway, my roots in Hamilton are very deep, and I really love and appreciate this community, and have grown up and have watched the town grow up in a lot of ways as well.
So, so you went to McCorston High School. What happens after McCorston then?
Well, I went to college. I went to college at Mercer County for business administration, and I was working at ShopRite. I worked at two ShopRites, actually. I worked at the ShopRite on Route 33 for 3 or 4 years, and then I worked at the ShopRite on Nottingham Way, which doesn't exist anymore. It's now the Walmart, of course, on Nottingham. And while I was working at that particular ShopRite, at the time they used to hire officers, Hamilton Township officers, who would work security, shoplifting prevention, etc., at the supermarket. And while I was there, I got to know a number of them reasonably well. And there was one guy in particular, Dave Riccatello, who's now long since retired. But he's a fantastic cop. If we had a Hall of Fame, he would be in it. Just a really excellent police officer. But he targeted me for some reason, recruited me in some ways, where he said, Ken, you're a really hard worker. You're a smart guy. You're educated. I think you'd make a great police officer. And this was back in 1988, and it had never occurred to me. It wasn't my life's ambition to become a police officer. I was had designs of getting into business and either being a small business owner or working my way up the corporate ladder, something along those lines. And Dave, kind of took me under his wing a little bit and focused me on policing as a potential career. And why not? Why not at least take the test? I have nothing to lose. It's a standard civil service test that is used for civilian positions, police, fire, etc. So I took the test in early 1988 when I was 20 years old, and I was very fortunate. I came out number 4 on the test, and I was within hiring range in the first group of hiring. So from when I took the test back in March or April of 1988, I was hired September 1st of 1988. So it was a whirlwind lifestyle change, and I was young enough that I felt, I'll give it a shot. If I don't like it, I can try something else. And I made it through the academy with flying colors, and got my feet wet in policing, and instantly I knew that I would love this career. And here I am, almost 35 years later, and still going strong.
Wow. Excuse me. So sworn in by Mayor Rafferty, I assume, back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then haven't looked back, as you said, but at some point you must have made the decision to seek a promotion, right? At that time, sergeant. So take us through what was going through your mind. You've been an officer now for however many years, and had to make a decision that this was your career, but you wanted to advance your career as well and be able to lead others.
Absolutely. When I spent time as a patrol officer, I bounced around a little bit from shift to shift, which is perfectly normal. I was exposed to a lot of senior officers who really took me under their wings and showed me the ropes and gave me some guidance as to how my career should go. Now, whenever anyone takes a job in law enforcement, you always have the ambition to nobody wants to spend 25 years riding around in a patrol car. So you should have some ambition of, I want to become a detective, I want to get into narcotics or traffic unit or something along those lines. And the alternative route in a law enforcement profession is the promotional route. Sergeant, lieutenant, captain, chief in our place. Larger municipalities will have more ranks in there, but in terms of Hamilton, I was given civil service rules dictate you have to have at least 3 years 3 years on the job in order to take your first sergeant's test. So that was I reached that back in 1991, and we started preparing for the sergeant's test. And some of my senior guys are like, look, don't be intimidated. There's always over 100 people who take the sergeant's test. We have 171 officers today. At the time, we had 182 officers. So the vast majority of the officers will take the promotional test when given the opportunity. So I took the test in 1994, and very fortunate. I came out number one on the test, and. Wow. So I was promoted inside of actually inside of 3 weeks of the results coming out. So I was promoted in December of 1994 to sergeant, and I was in the strange position of my first assignment on midnights, which is where the junior sergeants go. As I was in charge of 6 other officers, and I was the youngest one. So fortunately, I had some great guys. Some guys. One of my former partners was on the squad, and they really just said, all right, this is what we need to do. We'll get you through this. And at that point, my career path was pretty well set. And I later took the lieutenant's test back in 2004. I was promoted to lieutenant, captain in 2010, and now chief in 2023.
So you've talked about civil service tests. So for those who aren't aware, right, as it relates especially to law enforcement and Hamilton being involved in the civil service portion of it, what does that mean for Hamilton?
Well, there's 2 different ways of looking at it. You have your entry-level test, which is open to all civilians who wish to get involved in a career in law enforcement. Has some restrictions. You have to be 18 years of age. You have to be a resident of the municipality in which you're applying for the position. Now,
in terms of Hamilton.
In terms of right. In order to apply for Hamilton, you have to be a Hamilton resident. You could also apply to be a Mercer County sheriff as well, because obviously if you're a Hamilton resident, you're also a resident of Mercer County. And the civil service test is normally offered every 2 to 3 years. The schedule's been a little out of sync with that because of COVID. Mm-hmm. They didn't test. Civil service didn't test for a couple of years. So we had a test last year, which is only a 1 year long test, and then we're having another testing cycle this year. In fact, I think the tests are given in June and July. So we have our future prospective candidates are taking the test very soon. So that's the entry-level test. And then for promotional tests, they're offered every 3 years for each rank, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, chief. And it's a similar process, but obviously you have to be a member of the law enforcement agency in order to take the test, and that's how it works.
And then there's rules, right? So for somebody like myself, right, if I apply to be a law enforcement officer, I live in Hamilton, I want to be a Hamilton police officer, I've got to apply. To be able to become a Hamilton law enforcement officer, I have to take the test.
Yes.
And then I have to do well enough because there's rules on the order you have to go in selecting people and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Correct?
Well, there is one exception or 2 exceptions actually to having to take the test. There is a lateral transfer process where if you're already a law enforcement officer in another agency and you wanted to transfer over, you can do that. requires the consent of both agencies involved, the one that you're leaving and the one that you're transferring it to. So that's one. And the second exception, which is rarely used, is what's called the rice list, which is officers that have been laid off in another agency. They can get priority in hiring outside of the civil service testing process. So those are really the only two exceptions. Otherwise, for 99% of candidates, you have to take the test.
And so as mayor then, with your recommendation, that's how we go down a list.
Correct.
In selecting, and everybody has to reaffirm their interest and have a background check and all those kinds of things as well.
The background investigation process is pretty extensive, as you would expect for a law enforcement position. It involves everything from checking criminal history to motor vehicle history to school transcripts to previous employee history to interviewing friends and family. I mean, we spend a lot of time trying to obtain the best possible candidates for our agency, as we should. And we generally eliminate 2 candidates out of 3 or so per list because of either residency issues, because of perhaps some disqualifiers in their background, et cetera. So it's a pretty rigorous process to determine a candidate for law enforcement, and most agencies are very particular about who they'll hire for their agencies.
And so the residency requirement, right? So I take the test. I'm a Hamilton resident. I do really well. I do exceptionally well. But in the meantime, for one reason or another, I move out of town or whatever, I'm done, right?
That would be a disqualifier.
Yep.
You have to be a Hamilton resident at the time that you apply for the test, at the time that you take the test, and at the time that you're offered employment.
Yep.
So once you've been hired and you enter the police academy, you can move anywhere in the state, but you still have to be a New Jersey state resident.
Yep. So again, it's not an easy thing to have all these things lined up to do well, just from the objective things, then to do well on a test, get your back through your background, all that kind of stuff. And that's just to be hired to get into the academy.
Correct.
Which again is another then difficult process.
Yes, the Mercer County Police Academy is no joke. They are a very rigorous academy with high academic standards as well as high physical fitness standards. They are one of the toughest, if not the toughest, academy to pass in the state. Now, they're not attempting to fail people out, so to speak, and the PTC discourages that, but the Police Training Commission wants us to get everybody through the academy, but they do try to simulate what you're going to encounter when you're on the road. They emphasize physical fitness very strongly, as there should be for a career in law enforcement or a career as a firefighter. Physical fitness is a matter of life and death in our position. So the Mercer County Police Academy correctly emphasizes physical fitness.
And they're looking to make the best officer coming out of that academy that they possibly can.
Absolutely.
Which is only to our benefit then, both as a police division and as a Hamilton community.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Chief, we got to take a short break. I know we're just getting started on our conversation, right? And it kind of veered off of just a recruitment pitch almost. But
That's right.
We'll be back in just a little bit and talk more with Chief DeBoskey.
Today's show is being brought to you by Angelo Onifrey in the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office as a public service to the community. Angelo Onifrey urges you to stay involved in your community and to also support the youth of our community. They are tomorrow's future leaders in Mercer County. This message brought to you by the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office, who hope you enjoyed today's show. Merrill Reese here to tell you about my good friends at Haldeman Ford Subaru on Route 33 in Hamilton Township. For outstanding sales and service, you can depend on the folks at Haldeman Ford Subaru for the best value on new and pre-owned Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs, along with a great selection of value-priced new and pre-owned Subarus. And no one offers the service that Haldeman does in their huge, state-of-the-art service facility. Service so great that many area municipalities and commercial fleets get their service performed by Haldeman Ford Subaru. From Langhorne to Princeton, folks like you to commercial fleets trust the name Haldeman for sales and service. Haldeman Ford Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township. Hi, Merrill Reese for Capital Health, reminding you that the former St. Francis Medical Center is now Capital Health East, and they still offer a 24/7 emergency department as well as outpatient medical clinic services. To enter the emergency department and outpatient clinic, please use the Burt Avenue entrance. Capital Health, proud to be a partner for better health in our state's capital, Trenton, New Jersey.
Well, welcome back to This Month in Hamilton. Want to again start out by thanking our sponsors, Angelo Onifree in the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office, Capital Health System, Haldeman Ford Subaru, Radiology Affiliates Imaging, and Saul Funeral Homes. So, Chief, we talked a little bit about your career, right? Starting in 88, 89, some of your promotions, right? But through that course of that time, you've for those who don't know, you've been in different offices, different bureaus, different divisions, so to speak, right? Whether it be patrol or anything like that. What are some of the offices or divisions that kind of make up the police department that we have?
Well, there's three major divisions in the police department. There's the patrol division, there's field operations, and then there's administration. I've served in all three during the course of my career. Of course, the bulk of it was in patrol. I did spend 2 years as a detective sergeant, which is under the Field Operations Bureau, and then the last 8 years as a captain I spent in administration. So, Patrol Bureau is fairly self-explanatory. Their responsibility is to maintain proper staffing levels on the street to ensure that we have an appropriate amount of manpower to respond to emergencies as they come in, and also to provide public service. I mean, the vast majority of what we do is public service. It's accidents. It's helping people resolve disputes. It's taking reports for burglaries to autos or burglaries to residences, things like that. The vast majority of what we do is not lights and sirens, emergency responses. It's really going out there and helping the public. The second major division in the police department is field operations, which covers both the investigative units, which is our criminal investigation section, which is where is our detectives who follow up on investigations that are forwarded to them by patrol. And then we also have our juvenile section, which, self-explanatory, deals with any juvenile issues and disputes that arise. We also have our evidence technicians that are part of that unit. And also as part of that unit is our anti-crime unit, which is a semi-uniformed unit. They don't actually respond to calls for service, but they will respond to emergencies, and they will try to be proactive in making motor vehicle stops, drug interdiction, firearm interdiction, those kinds of things. And the third part of the field operations unit is our traffic unit, and their primary responsibility is, as you would expect, accidents, speeding, responding to citizens' complaints regarding motor vehicle violations, and so on. And the final piece of the puzzle is administration, which is everything that doesn't fit into the other two. So, as the administrative captain, I was responsible for our services unit, our records unit, property and evidence, training, firearms investigations. I mean, you name it. Everything that doesn't fit into those other two areas, I was responsible for. And the good thing is it's great preparation to become a chief of police, because I know everything that goes on behind the scenes, and I was also responsible for 90% of the budget, which, as you know, is a huge responsibility of the chief of police, because I have a responsibility to be a good steward of taxpayer money, and it's my responsibility to make sure that it's spent wisely and appropriately.
And while still making sure your officers have the resources they need to be able to do some of the things you just talked about, right?
Absolutely.
If they don't have a police car to respond to a traffic accident, doesn't help anybody how many officers you have, right?
Yeah.
If they don't have the equipment to do detective work, doesn't matter how many officers you have, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And so you've now been chief, like we said, under 30 days, right? talk a little bit about kind of how it's been now these last, we're taping this on June 26th, so 3+ weeks. How's the role been so far?
It's been a bit of a ride. I've gotten a couple of overnight phone calls that have disrupted my normal schedule, but fortunately it's been a relatively quiet month in terms of major crimes, so there hasn't been anything real high profile that I've had to devote a lot of time and effort to, and I have 170 other very, very qualified people that I delegate those types of investigations to.
Sure.
I've had a plan in place. My team and I have had a plan in place for probably 3 months now as far as the transition is concerned, and certain areas in the department where we think there might be some inefficiencies, restructuring the department a little bit. For example, we just today we made the decision on Friday to come up with a digital property and evidence officer, digital media officer. One of the things that we identified is that we have our property evidence covers everything that comes into the police department that's physical. Mm-hmm. It could be evidence from a crime scene, could be a rape kit, it could be DNA from a crime scene, whatever it is, whatever physical thing that we have that comes into the police department, that's part of an investigation. Or it could be something that somebody turns in firearms to be destroyed because a family member passed away. Whatever. There's a lot of physical evidence that comes into the police department that my property evidence officer and his civilian assistant are responsible for, and responsible for overseeing firearms, guns, jewelry, money. There's lots of high value stuff that comes in there. But the amount of digital evidence that we actually take in now is at least 10 times beyond what the physical evidence is that we take in. And we haven't had up to this point a officer who was specifically responsible for managing the digital evidence that comes in. And ever since we went to body-worn cameras back in 2016, our digital evidence just keeps getting larger and larger and larger. So that was one of the inefficiencies that we identified, is we needed somebody to manage our digital evidence in addition to our physical evidence. So that's one move that we're making today, just as an example.
I remember specifically we had a call a few years ago, about 2 years ago or so. My wife and I, we had a little damage to the property, right, that seemed suspicious. And the officer didn't come with a camera, right? They took their body-worn camera off. Yep. Pointed it to the area where we thought there was something odd, right? And that was capturing the image, essentially, instead of taking a picture, loading that digitally or old school, right, 30 years ago, printing it kind of thing, right? It's just a different way of doing everything because, as you say, everything is almost digital now.
Well, any interaction that our officers have with the public is captured on video camera. It's been a bit of an adjustment for us over the last 7 years since we initiated the body-worn camera program, and it's been a bit of an adjustment for the public as well. But it's been become such an asset in the amount of information that we can capture at an investigation, particularly a major crime scene, is just incredible. Mm-hmm. And it really does help us to solve crimes. It does increase the resolution rate of our investigations. And it also decreases the amount of internal affairs complaints that we get, oddly enough, which was one of the motivating factors behind us getting body-worn cameras. Because in the past, when we would have an internal affairs complaint against an officer, you would have almost like a he said, she said situation where I didn't like the officer's attitude. Well, what did he say? Well, I don't know. I just didn't like his attitude, or this officer did this, or it was an excessive use of force, whatever it was. Well, now having the body-worn cameras present at literally every interaction that we have with members of the public, it's all right there. And if there's a use of force issue, it allows us to investigate it live. We really don't. I mean, yes, we still have to receive the complaint, but we investigate every use of force. And the first thing we do is we go right to the body-worn cameras. If there's an attitude complaint, we go right to the body-worn cameras, and it's reduced the number of complaints that we've gotten from the public. And I think it's made our officers better in the sense that they know everything is videotaped, so they're not going to do anything that's out of line. And whenever there's a complaint that comes in, it's, okay, well, this guy's acting not my officer, but the person they're interacting with is the one with 9 times out of 10 who's causing the problem. So it's very easy to resolve those types of issues as well. But ultimately, to get back to the original point, somebody has to manage that digital evidence that comes in. We have terabytes of information that have to be managed. So,
if a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? You can imagine a video and how many words that's worth.
Video's worth a million. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things I don't think you talked about as chief, right, is partnerships, right? You're the face of the organization, right? But there's many law enforcement entities and security entities and all of that, right? Whether it's your Mercer County Sheriff, Mercer County Prosecutor, State Police, Homeland Security, FBI, all that kind of stuff, right? You're the face of those partnerships with those other entities as well. So talk a little bit about some of those partnerships.
Sure. I've had, the most immediate partnership, of course, is the Mercer County Prosecutor. Angelo Onofre is my immediate boss in terms of the law enforcement hierarchy. For the members of the public, it goes from your municipal law enforcement agencies to the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office to the state Attorney Generals. That's our chain of command. And I've got a very good relationship with Angelo going back 20 years ago when I was a detective sergeant. I used to work with him when he was an assistant prosecutor, and we worked together on a number of cases. And now he's the prosecutor and I'm the chief of police, so I have the opportunity to work with him on at least a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. I've had meetings with the state police as well. I've had contact with many other, Jack Kemmler, of course, from the Mercer County Sheriff's Department, and some of the other chiefs of police in the county. We have a monthly meeting with the county chiefs of police. Haven't had any contact with the Attorney General yet, but that's a good thing.
That's not a bad thing. He's a very good guy. He's visited Hamilton many times, but the less he has to be reactive here, all the better for everybody. Yeah,
usually when the Attorney General's giving you a call, it's probably not for a good reason.
Sure. And then you talked about the other chiefs, right, in Mercer County. And you've got to have a partnership with them because so often we know a criminal act or a criminal enterprise or individuals don't just stay within Hamilton and say, well, I live here, this is the only place I'm going to do something to harm others or harm property of others, anything like that.
Sure. I had lunch with Chief Pulaski from Robbinsville last Friday. I went out to visit his youth police academy that they were just concluding. And one of the ideas that we're sort of tossing around is to do something similar. So I went out and checked out his academy and how they were running it. I got their curriculum and I had lunch with Chief Pulaski, for example. And considering that we border a significant percentage of Robbinsville, there's a lot of obviously traffic between us and Robbinsville. That's a great partnership to have. And the other one would be, of course, with the City of Trenton with Director Wilson. I've spoken to him as well. We've always had a very good relationship with the City of Trenton. There's a lot of investigations that cross both borders in both directions, and I look forward to maintaining that relationship as well.
Perfect. So, Chief, we're going to take our last break, and when we come back, you mentioned especially the youth. I want to talk to you about some of the things that you've got, right? But I know one of your big things is Hamilton PAL and supporting Hamilton PAL, Police Athletic League, or almost now Police Activities League, I think it should be, because they're involved in more than just athletics, right? But a lot of the good things they're doing, community policing, all of that. So when we come back, we'll finish up with Chief DeBoskey.
Radiology Affiliates Imaging has been part of the Hamilton community for over 50 years, with 2 convenient locations, RAI Chi Hamilton and RAI Lawrenceville. We offer expertise in all areas of imaging for all members of your family. Our board-certified specialty radiologists offer expertise in women's imaging, interventional radiology, musculoskeletal and diagnostic radiology. Whether you need an MRI, CAT scan, ultrasound, mammogram, or X-ray, we offer the latest in imaging technology and interpretation. In the last 50 years, RAI has earned our place amongst the largest and most respected radiology groups in our area. For more information on all RAI has to offer, visit www.4rai.com.
Merrill Reese, here to tell you about my good friends at Haldeman Ford Subaru on Route 33 in Hamilton Township. For outstanding sales and service, you can depend on the folks at Haldeman Ford Subaru for the best value on new and pre-owned Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs, along with a great selection of value-priced new and pre-owned Subarus. And no one offers the service that Haldeman does in their huge, state-of-the-art service facility. Service so great that many area municipalities and commercial fleets get their service performed by Haldeman Ford Subaru. From Langhorne to Princeton, folks like you to commercial fleets trust the name Haldeman for sales and service. Haldeman Ford Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township.
Well, welcome back to This Month in Hamilton. I want to again start out by thanking our sponsors, Angelo Onifrey in the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office, Capital Health System, Haldeman Ford Subaru, Radiology Affiliates Imaging, and Saul Funeral Homes. So, Chief, we were just discussing before we went to break Robbinsville's youth programs, right? But Hamilton's had a long-standing police athletic league, which is kind of an in but not of the police division. If
Correct.
you could talk a little bit about them and what sort of things they do.
Sure. The Police Athletic League is a private entity, regardless of the fact it says police, obviously. But the Police Athletic League has been in effect in Hamilton since the 1970s. So, for argument's sake, let's say 50 years, and has always been involved in various youth sports leagues. They also run Safety Town, which is a hugely popular. Almost a rite of passage for the children of Hamilton to go through Safety Town. That dates back to the 1970s.
Started today, I think.
Yes,
summer curriculum.
It should be the first week. It should be the first week today. And I've always had a lot of interest in the PAL and what the PAL is and the benefits that the PAL creates between the police department and the community, because even though it's its own private entity, historically our police officers have always been involved in the PAL as directors, as volunteers, and that's the whole point was to connect with the community and to instill good positive values on the kids that are involved in either the Safety Town or the various athletics leagues. Now, within the last 2 years, PAL has a new director, Lieutenant Kristen Seitz. I think you interviewed her not too long ago.
Yep.
She is very, very creative and enthusiastic about the Police Athletic League. And she's expanded it substantially to include, instead of its historical areas, historical sports that it was involved in, like soccer and football and things like that, they've expanded it to wrestling, they've expanded it to cheerleading, and they intend to continue to expand it to other athletic endeavors. And she's a real cheerleader for the PAL program, very enthusiastic about it, and she's been able to encourage more of our officers to get involved than even what we've had historically. And she's gotten me excited about it as well. And I'm really a supporter of the Police Athletic League, and we're having discussions about having for instance, a PAL-sponsored fitness program for kids that would involve private partnerships with, teaching kids how to get involved in physical fitness and nutrition and things like that. And that obviously would branch out into the other sports that they're already sponsoring, and we'll see where it goes. I'm really excited. This Youth Police Academy would be a PAL endeavor, and it's something that Lieutenant Seitz and her brother, now Lieutenant Mike Kane, they've been researching the various youth police academies in the county and in the state, and getting curriculums and getting ideas, and what do you guys do here, and whether it's a week long, whether it's 2 weeks long, where it's still in the
early stages,
early planning stages, but it's something I'd like to implement along with PAL in 2024. So we'll see how it goes.
And all of this, right, involves community support, right? So your local business support. If you've been at Safety Town and had the opportunity to walk or have a kid go through, right, you've got the mock houses, and they all have a different business that has a billboard essentially for a business in town that supports sports safety town, right? And getting our kids exposed to law enforcement at a young age, but in a fun way, right? To again build that community support. And National Night Out's another way, right? Having the police engage with the local community. So talk a little bit, just if you can, on your philosophy on community policing, right? Some of these different events, some of these different activities in the police, as you said, right? When you interview, when you're hired, you're a member of the Hamilton community, and now it's making sure that bond is continually strengthened, right?
Sure. Community policing is an important part of any police agency at this point. Over the years, I think we've come to, as a profession, we've come to recognize that this is a partnership with the community. This isn't, law enforcement over here, community over here. It's very inefficient to do that. So we do reach out to partners in the community, whether it be our local houses of worship or local businesses or the local crime watch. That's something that's run out of our community policing office. And Detective O'Hare's been in there now for 5 or 6 years. He's very effective at community policing. I just added three more officers to community policing. They're actually our leads officers who are based in our middle schools and who do the leads program. The whole program, I just moved that under community policing because it seems to fit that very well, and that gives Lieutenant Schultz, who's in charge of our community policing, 3 more officers that he can use for connecting with the community for various events, for Coffee with a Cop, for example, whatever the events are that are coming up. And then, of course, we have National Night Out, which is a community policing effort and is a great opportunity for the public to come out and meet the police agency. And instead of just watching us drive by in our beautiful police cars, to actually stop and chat with some of our officers and learn what some of our people do, and learn that we have a SWAT team, for example. They're out there with demonstrating their equipment, or our traffic unit with their motorcycles, just coming out and saying hi. And I think the most important thing for the public to recognize is that we're just human beings, and we're part of this community too, and we have an interest in seeing Hamilton improve and continue to thrive. And I grew up here. I've been here for, I spent my entire life in this community, and the vast majority of my officers can say the same thing. And we're invested in this community, and we love to meet the members of the public and develop that partnership.
And there's all sorts of different ways to do it, right? So where my daughter goes to daycare, once a year they have an officer come out, right? And so the kids get an opportunity to interact with the officer, to take pictures in the back seat of the car, right? All those kinds of things, even at a very young age, right? I mean, this was under 2 when she was doing that. Helps hopefully build that trust, build that relationship. Even though my daughter hopefully doesn't have any involvement with whatever officer came that day, right? It's about a bigger picture in showing law enforcement is part of the community kind of thing.
Absolutely. I remember my older daughter went through Groveville in Groveville on Church Street, and I remember that the teachers there asked me, "Hey, could you stop by in your police car someday?" And sure enough, I did. And having a parade of kids walking through my police car, I'm like, don't touch that. Okay, you're good there, And just having that interaction with 3 and 4 year olds was really a lot of fun, and I hope they got something out of it.
And you see the smile on their faces, and it makes their day that day.
Yes.
So now, again, you've been in the role just over 3 months. What are some of your goals, right, over the next few months, over the next few years? I know right now you're just building that foundation, right? But what are some of the things you've got as goals for yourself over the coming years?
Well, the first focus always has to be on response times and patrol, and making sure that we have that base to work with, so that the public gets the service that they expect and that they should get, and that means keeping up lowering response times, keeping up staffing levels to a point to where we have enough people on the street to be able to address the calls for service that come in. One way to do that is to make my officers a little bit more efficient. We're looking at things like online reporting. We're looking at things like using officers that are assigned in headquarters to take telephone reports. These are changes from previous administrations. In the past, if you would call in for whatever, my mailbox was damaged or somebody broke into my car, you'd have to wait. An officer would have to clear another assignment to come out, and sometimes on a good day, 5 minutes. On a bad day, if we're super busy, we have a major incident, that might take 30 minutes or an hour. But with online reporting, it's not in effect yet, but it's one thing that we are researching. And with telephone reporting, where an officer inside a headquarters can take a report for something that doesn't require follow-up investigation, then that takes the burden off the officers on the street, gives them more time to respond to more serious emergencies. So just little tweaks like that to the department is
embracing that digital age.
Yes,
again,
embracing the digital age, and looking at ways within the department and restructuring the department a little bit to find ways to make it more efficient, maybe reassigning some job duties, things like that. Longer term, it's always been a priority of mine is drug enforcement and firearm interdiction. Obviously, both of those have a huge impact on the quality of life in Hamilton Township. And as you know, we've had 34, 35 overdoses this year. We've had some fatalities. Attempting to interdict with the heroin crisis in a more aggressive fashion is something that I'm hoping will bear some fruit. And then trying to do that type of enforcement from a more compassionate angle as well. Because if someone's been involved in heroin and for example, we make an arrest for someone who has simple possession of heroin or fentanyl. Now that's a life-threatening situation for that person, whether they recognize it or not. When anytime someone injects heroin or fentanyl, that's a life-threatening situation. You could die the first time you could do it, or any time that you use heroin. So referring those persons that are unfortunately involved with heroin or fentanyl or opioids in general to the various private agencies that offer counseling, that offer either in-house or outpatient counseling for heroin addiction, so on. Hopefully we can attack this nationwide problem from two different angles. We can attack it from the law enforcement angle, but also from the supply angle. From if we can reduce the demand for opioids within the township, then that would theoretically reduce the supply as well. So basic economics there. So that's something that we're still in the infancy stages of designing, but I'm excited about that as well.
Good stuff. Well, Chief, we just got a minute left. Anything you want to leave our listeners with as we close your segment here today?
Well, I'm really proud and humbled to become the Chief of Police of Hamilton, and I appreciate the opportunity. And as I said to you at the promotion, you won't regret it, and the citizens of Hamilton Township will not regret my time as Chief of Police. I guarantee you that I will work as hard as possible to make Hamilton a better place.
That's awesome. And just a little bit of history. Only the 9th Chief of Police in Hamilton's history, too, right?
In
over
94 years, 95 years, yeah. The 9th Chief of Police.
Wow, great sign of stability that way. So want to thank you, Chief DeBoskey, for coming on this month in Hamilton. Want to thank all our listeners for, again, tuning in one way or the other for this month in Hamilton. Want to thank WBCB 1490 AM for allowing us each and every month to bring you this month in Hamilton. Thank our sponsors, Angelo Onofre and the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office, Capital Health System, Haldeman Ford Subaru, Radiology Affiliates Imaging, Saul Funeral Home, and with that, we will see you next month in July 2023 to again talk about what's going on this month in Hamilton. Thank you and have a great rest of your month.